All right, everyone. I think, it's still saying your event is starting. Now we are live. And as always, welcome everyone to the Azure Functions webcast.
Woohoo!
I know, I've always, the setup was a little different today. So if you can confirm in the chat window that you can hear us and see us, that would be fantastic. And we will get started. We are joining you in the scenic fall, autumn day in October.
That's true. And I feel like we haven't done this in a while now.
Yeah.
At least not me and you.
Because we were going to do it without you last month.
Yeah.
I'd already replaced
and
you.
that was very sad.
It took me all of 5 seconds to replace you.
Nice.
But then I got sick the day of the webcast, so we ended up canceling it. So it has been 2 months, though. So our monthly webcast, this has been a little bit of a delay. So I don't see anyone confirming it in chat that they are seeing us, but everything, all the signals I see on my side make it look like we're good. So we'll get started. I am Jeff Holland on the Azure Functions team, and we are good. I can see it on the live view. Okay, and I'm joined today by...
And I'm Eduardo Laureano, also on the Azure Functions team.
We still do our intros. Who knows? This might be some of your first webcast joining us today. And if it is, just be sure to note. So this is a chance for us as a team to share with you exciting updates, things that we built, things that we're working on. And then my favorite part is highlighting some of the stuff that the community has been doing as well.
And always like a little bit of a sneak peek of things that are coming. We hear from so many people as we go in conferences and stuff. It's like, I watched the webcast and I learned about X and Y, and so it's cool to always like give them a glimpse of it's open source, it's all in the open. We might as well talk about it.
Yeah, and it gives Eduardo and I the chance to see us on the big screen. So we'll take it.
That's always odd.
Maybe all right. So let me open up our deck then. Happy Halloween, everyone. Whether you're watching this now or in 7 days from now when it will actually be Halloween Day. But this is our spooky edition, as you saw from our pumpkin. So let's get started then just with what's new. Let me build out the slide. First big one is the preview of .NET Core 3 is live now. So if you want to, and I will show you in just a second, how you can use Azure Functions to build functions targeting .NET Core 3. So this is one that we're excited.
Yep.
A little over a month, I think almost a month to the day when they went GA that we had this preview, which we worked hard to get out quickly.
Yeah. And we should say, like, as for all languages we support, we hear you in the community. We try to keep up with the language versions in general. So the same way we're doing .NET Core 3, Jeff's going to talk about some other languages, but in general, we try to, not let it lag behind too much between language framework versions and have them supported in Azure Functions. So it's just good to see this one coming quickly.
There was another popular language that went GA in the last few weeks that you will see in an upcoming slide. So a little bit of teaser for those of you who are language experts. Key Vault references went GA. I was super excited about this one.
That is huge, yeah.
This is my most popular blog post, is when I wrote how to reference Key Vault from an Azure function. I still get about 1,000 people a week who click on that thing. And now it's GA, which is great.
But yeah, it's popular. It's probably because it's your blog post for sure. But
no. The reason I bring it up was the feature is so useful.
I know, yeah, exactly. Like,
you have to keep me so humble, Eduardo?
Having the secrets just managed in a single in a place that you can rotate and all your secrets across all your Azure services, it's just super important. So it's something that, by default, as you're creating secret snap settings, we should almost like slap your hand and say, hey, are you sure that's where you want to put your secret? Move this to Key Vault, please.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. RabbitMQ extension. This one's a little bit older now, but you can write Azure functions that target RabbitMQ. One thing I want to call out here that's been asked a few times in the webcast is a good one to clarify. So you can use this RabbitMQ trigger in the premium plan and in Kubernetes with Kata today. It's supported. A lot of people have asked about RabbitMQ in the consumption plan. Our answer to that has been we prioritize the ones I listed primarily because the customers that we've been talking to, they have RabbitMQ secured behind a VNet. And we don't today have a way to have a consumption plan function talk to a resource behind a VNet. And so to date, I still don't have anyone actually who's been like, oh, actually, we would use the non-VNet version of RabbitMQ. So it's worth knowing it's there. If you have a VNet, all the hosting options, premium, containers, Kubernetes will work. And if you want a different version in consumption, you're just going to need to flag and let us know so we know that it's a valuable solution for us to go spend the effort to build that support. Great.
Very cool.
Beta 3 release of Durable Functions 2.0. As that gets closer and closer to GA, I will tease now because it's on GitHub. This is the last planned beta release for Durable Functions 2.0, which means the next release isn't beta. I don't know how much more clear I can be. So that's got a few exciting features, especially around entities, which we'll hit later. Manage dependencies for everything in the PowerShell gallery. Eduardo, you want to explain what this one was? What this update did?
But what I love about more than any other language, PowerShell, I think it's critical that we support something that you write your single line of PowerShell or a couple lines of PowerShell and you get the job done. But if you have to worry about, oh, do I have all the modules that I need? Do I have all the dependencies that I need? Now your 2 lines is going to become something much longer. So I think the managed dependencies is our way to provide a lot of these common dependencies that you're going to have when you write Azure PowerShell, I should say, and use that in your script, and that will be all available for you. So, and we'll document what they are, which versions we have, but just having that sort of that capability of making them available for PowerShell, and we should also tease later on for other languages too, like if you have dependencies. So that functionality in general is very exciting. It really goes to the mission of let's make your code or your script as simple as possible. So I love that.
And if you remember 2 or 3 months ago, we had Eamon on. He showed us how you can use Azure commandlets just out of the box before without having to package up and deploy that module. Now you can do that for any gallery module. So let's say you want to use SharePoint or Dynamics or whatever other PowerShell gallery thing you want, rather than you having to worry about, do I have the latest version? How do I update it? How do I get it into my deployment package? You go to your host.json file, you say, here's the modules that I want, and they'll automatically get pulled down for you locally and in the Azure cloud, which is very cool. So yeah, to Eduardo's point, just let me write my lines of code. Don't make me worry about how to pull down dependencies, and they get managed for you. GitHub Action support for Azure Functions. One too.
We keep talking about DevOps and how to do your DevOps pipeline, but it's interesting because I always thought about how can you start your development from GitHub? That's where you put your source code, that's where you put your functions, and should be just a few clicks away from to have a fully configured DevOps pipeline that deploys to the Azure, to the cloud. So with GitHub Actions, you can do exactly that. And if we have time, we can even demo that, show it a little bit. Yeah,
sure.
So I'll clip my talking about this, so later on we can show.
Okay, all right. So we'll show a little bit of what the actions looks like. So that's it for what's new. Maybe we'll take a tiny break here. I just want to show you, for those of you who haven't already, we posted on our announcement post how to get .NET Core 3 up and running on your machine, for those of you who want to try out the preview. So there's a whole blog post if you check out on Twitter or on GitHub. It's on dev.to. It'll tell you everything you need to know to use this in Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, Mac, Windows, whatever. But one thing to call out is that .NET Core 3 is highly backwards compatible. So we don't anticipate this is going to be a very long preview at all. In fact, we've communicated we want to take this GA in the first quarter of next calendar year. But the other thing is, if you have existing V2 apps in a development environment, it's still preview, so not your production stuff. You should be able to pretty seamlessly upgrade and try out these new bits. There's not a whole lot of improvements you'll see right now, other than just the fact it's running on .NET Core 3 behind the scenes. So it's more .NET users who want to use that type of stuff. You can now, but it is something that you can get started with pretty quickly. So I just wanted to show you the stuff that you set up. So I'm here in Visual Studio. All I had to do was I spun up, and I can't see my cursor, so maybe I won't even worry about this. I spun up a environment variable. So I've added an environment variable so I can see all the hidden templates. And now, yeah, I'm having cursor issues, I think, because I have PowerPoint over here. Let me see if that, nope, don't worry about it. No. We have an actions demo anyway. But anyway, follow that blog post. You update an environment variable. Visual Studio will pull in the new templates. You'll start to see .NET Core 3 in the dropdown. And then you can go into your project settings. It will still target .NET Core App 2.1 by default. The template will. But you can just go bump it up to .NET Core 3 and start to pull in .NET Core 3 dependencies and party away. Do you want to do the action stuff since my demo failed?
Yeah, let's just do it. I think I could see your cursor, by the way, but I don't
Oh,
know
you
if
could see it on the screen.
Yeah.
I just couldn't see it on my
Yeah,
screen.
if you look all the way down.
Oh, I should have just done that. Anyway, we're seeing your screen now.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That was smooth.
Yeah,
I didn't even click project. How
And
do you do
with
this
you,
magic?
we can do picture in picture.
All right. So I'll click play here on this video so you can see what's going on. So for you to configure GitHub Actions, it's a very generic framework, right? So you can enter an YAML file where you can configure your target and your publishing configuration. And that can be for Azure App Service or Azure Functions, works the same way. It's actually demoed by Ahmed. So now we're on the functions code. So from functions itself, if you trigger a pull request, that's what's going to start your GitHub Actions. So we're making super simple code change. We're going to commit. We're going to generate the PR here. And then is when you can flip over, and then the GitHub action is already configured that, hey, I know a PR happened. Let me start that deployment for you. And we'll follow what's configured in that YAML file to know how to build and where to deploy to. In this case, we'll deploy to the clouds. The main thing here is all you had to do is a simple YAML file, configure it, enter your publishing credentials, boom, your pipeline's fully set up. You're fully on GitHub. You didn't have to configure a different service. So really, really powerful framework you can use for a lot of other things. I think it's in preview right now. We're going to keep evolving that experience, but something we're excited about just to have functions show up there as part of the GitHub action.
Perfect. Very slick. It's just something I played with it briefly. I've been meaning to get back and try out some new GitHub Action stuff, especially as I've got, and I saw in the chat too, I've been playing a bunch with Blazor and Azure Functions with Cosmos DB and authentication for some stuff that I'm going to be training on at Ignite. And I've been meaning to be like, how could I set this up into GitHub Actions so that when I make a change to either the website with Blazor, to the functions on the back end, that it just rolls out. Similar to what I do with Azure DevOps, but all from GitHub.
And it's just like Azure DevOps is super configurable. That's what I like. So if you want to do a more complex, this was somewhat on a simple pipeline, but if you want a more complex pipeline that will include your tests, because I hear you test your code, Jeff, you could add all of that to on GitHub Action. So
I do need to. I've been getting some comments lately that in our demos we need to show more testable code. So maybe I need to start adding unit tests during these live demos rather than just other ones.
Yeah, I have some comment if we have time for the last bit of sample code you shared in a blog post that doesn't do some things.
You're gonna code review me live. You know, I spent this weekend writing a blog post, and I get to work, and the first thing Eduardo says, he's like, I was reviewing your code.
Let's see if we have time.
What's coming? The moment you've been waiting for. Microsoft Ignite is coming. So there's a few things that we are not going to add to this list that we will announce at Ignite. So keep an eye out for some goodies that aren't even on this list. But there are some things that we will probably announce near or at Ignite that are being worked on. So Python 3.7, we kind of referenced this earlier. Python 3.8 just came out. Oh, shoot, I can't remember. Either way, Python 3.7 we're working on now, and shortly after Python 3.8, because Python 3.8 was the one that just went GA. Yeah. So we're rushing on some Python stuff.
And we feel like we should comment on this. So when we GA, 3.7 was out, and we GA'd with 3.6, and that was a conscious decision for us because we didn't want to delay giving Python out to our customers and wait until we could add a new language version. In parallel, while we're getting the platform ready, that was Linux consumption GA, a lot of work to support a brand new hosting model, supporting containers and all that. In parallel, we're coming up with a mechanism for us to not only add 3.7, but add languages quicker.
Yes, right.
So that's work that we did in parallel with GA Python 3.6, and now we're like, let's add 3.7, and we hope it's 3.8 and any future versions that we can roll them out a little quicker. So just some background for some of you to know, like, some things might look on the outside like, oh, why didn't they release 3.7 right away? It's because that engineering part of the work was still going on.
Yeah, we knew we only had the platform capabilities at GA to get it out when we wanted to support one language. And we're like, Python 3.6 seems like the one that's just compatible with everything.
Yep.
But now we've done all the platform work, and so now we should be able to add these languages really quickly. Great call out. VNet triggers for premium plan. This is one we've talked about a few times before. This is starting to roll out, actually. So I think for a few triggers like, I want to say storage right now and Cosmos DB already have this, and Service Bus is coming online this next week. But it's the ability for you to have a function that's triggering on something like Service Bus, even though that Service Bus has service endpoints and a firewall turned on. So that's coming very quickly, and it's already halfway rolled out. PowerShell GA, it feels like it's already GA, but I guess not. Any thoughts, any comments on this one other than it's coming?
It's coming.
It's coming. And then performance improvements. Eduardo, I actually joined a little bit. You had a big call today with a bunch of customers around scalability stuff. Any thoughts just for the webcast around what we're doing around performance worth sharing?
I think what's interesting is we started this premium journey knowing to go enterprise, and now we're getting some of our customers. It's great to have just such customers, such high demand, but put stress on the platform. So we're like, how can we provide real good guidance on reach real high scale? Like we're talking like
hundreds of thousands per second.
100,000 RPS, right? So I think we're gonna keep doing work on this as premium GA. Once premium comes GA, that's a big focus. But we'll keep going on that journey of really high scale apps. So keep, you're gonna hear more from us on that. Like, when should I use pull versus push? What's the best practice around Event Hub? Best practice around Service Bus? HTTP? Does the instance size matter? Like, how do I make the most out of all these 4 cores, 12 gigabytes machines? So we're optimizing to all the power that we have now. So that's we will provide more guidance.
Perfect. Yeah, we've been running a bunch of tests as a team. We've been running a bunch of tests with high scale customers. Definitely something we care about, and we want to keep the dialogue open with all of you as well. I heard you mention today, like if anyone ever hits a scenario where they're like, "Look, I need a little bit more. I need some knobs." Like, reach out, let us know.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Like the matrix of possibilities. Once you support this many languages and skills and all that. I mean, we're gonna hit as many as we can here, but you might hit a unique one, and we want to hear about it.
Yeah. All right, let's just shift now. I've been checking in my, I think with this team sharing thing, that's where my cursor keeps disappearing on my screen. But I've been keeping an eye. Let's just churn out some questions, and then we'll go to the community highlights, which is my favorite part, as I mentioned. People did confirm they can hear us. We have some people who've dialed in from as far away as Malaysia, where it is now 2:18 in the morning. So way to go.
Wow,
Hassan.
thank you.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty impressive. And Morton's also joined, though he joined 10 minutes late. So 10 minutes from now, Morton, hello. Then the only question from Hassan, actually, where it's 2:19, any changes to logic apps to Azure Functions? I imagine what you're asking is like calling a function from a logic app. There's no big updates there. We're definitely continuing to work with that team for some future improvements. But for now, it's kind of use a HTTP Azure function. You can call it from any logic app. Things work fine for the most part. I don't have any other big updates on that one. And hello, Vinoth, as well. We're lots of people saying hi now. Okay, so with that, because a lot of the updates too, and I'll tell you right now, at Ignite, we will have a webcast on the Channel 9 studio stage, I believe on Wednesday or Tuesday afternoon. We'll post the schedule. So we'll have an update in November. We'll recap all the Ignite announcements and everything that's new and that you should know about. It probably won't be from this channel. We'll cross-post it later. It will be as part of the big Ignite media stuff that they're doing. So keep an eye on that, and that one's coming as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I was excited about your demo. I don't know if you want to try, but I know a question we get asked, so maybe you can answer to the audience is, so .NET Core 3.0 comes. Does it mean a V3 version of functions? And if that means, what does that mean for the previous versions? I don't know if you answered that last webcast. Sorry, I missed it.
We didn't. No, we actually didn't. That was one of the things we were going to talk about in October, or I'm sorry, in September, but we canceled that one.
Yeah.
So I'll add some. So yes, there is, in terms of, you'll notice when you start using this, you go into your Azure Function App settings.
And then the portal has a tilde.
And there's a tilde 3. Yeah, so this is Functions
There's
V3.
history behind the tilde too.
Yeah, that's right. And we did have a few customers who had set that setting to be latest, like the vague thing. And so we had to send them a note. And we're like, by the way, Latest is now ~3, not ~2. I think the reason that you'll actually probably hear us more talking as a team around like, hey, you now have support for .NET Core 3 is because we know the journey between Functions v1 and Functions v2 was not a seamless one, right? Like that was in preview for a very long time. I think almost a year.
Yep.
We changed from .NET Framework to .NET Core.
That's right.
A bunch of huge changes along the way too. We changed how languages work. We moved to this out of proc model. We changed how bindings work with extensions. There was a bunch happening there. And so while this is Functions v3, it's a pretty like unnoticeable one. It's almost like when the analogy I use is like when I open up Google Chrome or Edge, which I do. I use Edge primarily, if you notice. But if I open up Google Chrome, I think right now I'm like Google Chrome 28. Yep. But moving from 27 to 28, I was like, I don't know. Like there's a few things there.
That's a good
2
one.
to 3 is probably just like for something that's not a .NET language, it won't be visible really at all. All the languages work the same. All of that's the same. Even for .NET, it's highly backwards compatible. And we can even run .NET Core 2 code with .NET Core 3 because it's all .NET standard. But it's just that you can now opt into .NET Core 3 stuff. So it is a major version. It will be the default once this becomes GA in calendar year, the first quarter, as I mentioned. But a pretty no dramas, like don't worry about it. And we're not deprecating number 2 either, V2 at all. Yeah. We haven't done anything like don't worry about anything, or V1, like just don't. Hopefully this isn't a stressful announcement. It's just one that you can be like, okay, great, I can use .NET Core 3 if I want. And we'll continue, like .NET Core 3 does have some things like an improved gRPC library. So we know we use gRPC a lot. Like we'll be able to improve some performance. We'll be able to improve some throughput. So it gives us flexibility behind the scenes, not too much in your face.
Got it.
Long-winded answer.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see if I got it. See if I'm paying attention. So if you want to do .NET full framework, you still use Azure Functions v1.
Yes.
That's not going anywhere. That works for those customers. If you use any language not .NET, as soon as 3 is GA, you can move to 3 just seamless, the same way you would be on 2. There's going to be no difference. If you have an app that has .NET Core 3 dependencies, you need to be on 3,
yes.
of course. You could not do that on 2. And for the other ones that use .NET, are on V2, and don't have .NET Core 3 dependencies, they can wait. They don't need to join the preview. They can wait until it's GA. Once they go GA, just like any other language, no impact.
Yes, that's correct. That's the plan. So the only thing we're doing, the analysis we're working on with that was really good. You should have answered your own question. It didn't take 45 seconds for you to do it. Why even add to that? That's perfect. Okay, so there's a few other questions that came in, but I want to do community updates first. So Eduardo, are you ready to share? Let me share the link that I have, because one of the feedbacks we got from the webcast is, can you give us all the links? So if you go to this very easy to type in link, in fact, I'll paste it in the chat window, of ak.ms/functions/October. This will have all the links for the community content that we're plugging right now. So you can definitely go into that right now. And I pasted it into the chat window too, so you don't even have to type it yourself. Eduardo, I think you had a few of them open. I think if you refresh that, it should have a bunch more links, the ones you sent me.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
You can highlight the ones that you liked and why you liked them.
Yeah. So first because we didn't do last month. So there was, in case you haven't seen, there was this whole push initiated by our Cloud Advocates team, and they're just fantastic. We can't speak highly enough of them. They did this whole serverless September. So if you follow that hashtag, there was literally one new article every day during the whole month of September on serverless. So not only functions, some other areas as well, but tons of just great content, video, articles, you name it. So that's serverless September. So there's tons there. So we picked a few. So if you look down here, you're gonna see a few that Jeff had picked. I'm gonna pick a few not necessarily related to serverless September, just new stuff, that we liked. Sorry if I missed some contributor great content, but there's just a few I want to talk about. So this is really cool. In case you're not familiar, serverless.com, also known serverless framework, they have this really cool library that abstracts you a lot from sort of the cloud provider details. What does that give you is you could write a function, and that's amazing. And you could deploy to AWS Lambda, or you could deploy to Azure Functions using the same set of tooling with just a little bit of configuration. So what happened in the past is the full integration with Azure Functions wasn't quite there. So we did in collaboration with also not a great team we have here, the CSC team, to implement that. And there's a whole blog post on how you can go and take advantage of serverless framework, deploy to Azure Functions, and deploy to other cloud as well. And there's actually real big customer that's going to use this for their production implementation. So exciting to see. Check out that blog post. The other ones I want to call out. Actually, do you want to talk about this one? Because I know you loved this one.
I did. This was fantastic. Yeah, Paco had a fantastic blog series, actually. So you can see this is part 2 of part 1. But I remember I used this service all of the time, especially when I was using logic apps and I was using like that HTTP action where I wanted to go and like evaluate what is the actual payload that this app is sending? What are all the headers? What's the body? Because sometimes I'd be sending data that I didn't realize was in quotes or was base 64 encoded or whatever. I used to use this tool called RequestBin, which was fantastic, but they shut it down because they were getting DDoSed, I'm imagining, and it wasn't profitable. So Paco figured out 2 ways to write your own serverless request bin. The one we're sharing here is using durable entities, which are these stateful functions that can maintain state as many instances you want. So here he has a pattern where you say, hey, I have an HTTP request bin that I'm going to send HTTP request to. You could have as many of those bins as you want. Just give them a unique identifier, and the state will be managed for you all here. So yeah, this part's fantastic. If you want to try it out, there's a one-click deploy button where you can deploy this into your own sub, fill out some of the parameters as well. So it's both a super valuable tool. It's nearly free to run because you're only charged when you're actually invoking requests. But it's also using some of this new tech with Durable Functions 2.0 and durable entities. So
yeah,
definitely
he can put
cool
the sample
scenario.
code here for anyone to go and see what he did.
Yeah, fantastic blog series, and it's great to see the code samples, the deployment, and a very useful scenario. So yeah, great blog post.
Very nice. And this is more on the serverless September front I was talking about, and there's so much. I think if I had to pick one, I don't like picking favorites, but I feel like we don't talk enough about security in serverless. People think, oh, it's all serverless. I don't have to worry about anything. No, you do need to worry about security. There's a guy that sits behind me, reminds me of that every day. So this is one of those blogs that go into all these different 6 aspects about security and how you can properly worry about them or take care of them in your function application or serverless architecture. So a great one here by Tal. And here's another one. It's not necessarily functions, it's Cosmos DB, but it's really about the change feed, I should say. But just talking about the scenarios it enables, and this is huge for some enterprises, which is how you migrate my data with no downtime. And this goes through how would you accomplish that. And in a real nice, he builds up on the concepts. Even if you've never heard of the change feed, you're going to learn about it and you're going to know what the advantages are and how to fully use it using the SDKs that are available.
It's true, yeah.
Cosmos.
Even just from the fact that our Cosmos trigger uses the change feed, and it's useful to read this and just understand, if you don't already, like, what is the change feed? How does it work? What, how does it behave? Yep. This breaks a lot of that down.
Very cool. Last one, I love these little snippets that are useful, right? Like, this is a super short blog post and by Luis Delgado. We also know him well. And what he did was, hey, you're developing a Python function. Sometimes you're developing, you want a local temp directory just for you to do some intermediate processing, storing the data somewhere for your next step, right? Yep. It's not something for long-term storage. But if you want to do that, how you do it? And he just goes straight to the point, say, hey, here's how you get your temp directory, right? Because might not be, if you're doing Python, it might not be something you learn on your own. So you read the blog post, he gives you a real nice piece of information that will make your life easier. So I love those blogs are straight to the point and teach you a little concept and make you more productive.
Fantastic.
That is it.
Is that good? Okay. We'll switch over to the last slide, which is just the upcoming events that we have. There's not a whole lot. We're reaching the end of the year. I guess you've got some places you're going that I didn't add, so maybe you can plug those. Oh
yeah, we should say. So we have Microsoft Ignite. That's a big time Microsoft event, and we do now this Ignite the Tour where we take these learning modules, like learning tracks, a conference that's really hands-on for developers where they can follow a track and learn new concepts. They'll learn how to migrate apps, how to build modern apps, how to add intelligence to their scenarios. It's really well structured, and we deliver that content, and it's really mature content. We delivered around the world, literally. There's so many stops. I'm doing
20-something stops,
oh my
28?
God, I think so, yeah.
It's a lot.
Ignite the Tour is what's called. I'm going to be in a few of those, and some other team members are going to be in some of them. So look for it. If you're most places in the world, look, there is one close to you. Hopefully there is one that you can join.
Where are you going?
I'm doing São Paulo. I'm from Brazil, so I'm
And that's
doing Brazil.
December like 18th or something?
That's 12th and 13th of December.
Oh, yep, cool.
And then mid-March, I'm going to be in Mexico City.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. That's perfect. Yep. So Microsoft Ignite, the tour. The other one that was up there, KubeCon. Both Eduardo and I will actually be there. This will be my first ever KubeCon. Eduardo was in Barcelona a few months back. But we're excited to talk about, because Functions, as many of you hopefully know, Functions is a fantastic service and does this event-driven programming, but it also comes with it this event-driven model that you could run outside of the service if you needed to or wanted to, including in Kubernetes on IoT devices. So at KubeCon is a good chance for us to go showcase some of those programming patterns outside of even just like the traditional serverless Azure cloud that you're used to. Okay. Let's answer the last few questions that streamed in. I'm going to stop projecting on Teams because it seems to be causing me grief. So hopefully I don't need to share my screen again. Okay, here's one question, Eduardo. Do we have access to machine metrics of Functions?
So, first disclaimer is, one, you end up running Functions in a lot of machines, right? So what we do is we collate a lot of the metrics and we give you what we call metrics. So you can get things like committed memory, there's going to be CPU usage. So some of these metrics are available to you. I remember from the experience, if you start from our monitoring tab, probably you get to metrics, but you can get to metrics. Some other things you can get is
like CPU memory.
You get CPU memory, you get
page file stuff. There's quite a bit on there, actually.
So we could go through the list. Yeah, that's what's there. The other one I like is on Application Insights, you have the live metrics stream, and that gives you a broader view. So now you're looking into how many servers you're scaled out to, the sample requests per second, aggregated CPU, aggregated memory. So there's a bunch of metrics out there is what I'm trying to say. Like, take a look to see if they are giving the kind of information you need, and let us know. If not, see what else we can expose. Yeah,
and the question related actually from Vinath as well is, if you don't want to use Azure Insights, App Insights, because it's an extra charge, are there any options that you have outside of the App Insights stuff?
So that's fantastic. So what we do is when you do like write out or log to the console or anything like that, what we do is the runtime, just to explain how things work, is logging all of that. So it's our runtime plus your own code logging data. All of that gets streamed and goes also to what's called log analytics. That log analytics, you can configure it either to go to a storage account and then grab it from there and then send it to a different system, or it can go to Event Hub. So you literally streaming from our runtime to a destination you want. And some people stream to see their data in third-party APM tools. So they would use Splunk, Datadog, New Relic, you name it. I named most of them. Hopefully I didn't miss a big one. But anyways, Elk, I should say as well, so Elastic. So you can use any of them. In that case, becomes more cost effective for you to just get the metrics out. But we do love App Insights though. I mean, we haven't even built it. Just the rich querying, all the graphs you can get, the exceptions, all the data structure, the application map and all that. But we understand some customers already take advantage of that elsewhere. So hook up one of these and use Azure Monitor. If we haven't demoed it here, we can demo the Azure Monitor. It's in It's going to come to public preview soon. I think it's on a private preview.
Yeah, it's an opt-in preview right now. Yeah. So you can send us a note, and I think we could pretty much add anyone to that gated private preview.
We can whitelist.
So if you send us a note on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, it's a good call out. And like in the past, the functions team was like, well, we can build the monitoring thing and the runtime thing and the whatever other things we were trying to build. And over time, we've been like, you know what? We should actually just build in hooks to the other team in Azure that do like Azure Monitor, Log Analytics, and App Insights. So in general, if there's a service in Azure that does it better, we try to integrate with them. App Insights is one option. Azure Monitor and Log Analytics is a great other one with a different kind of cost model, right? Azure Monitor is far less expensive, but it's also a far less rich experience. It kind of assumes that you're going to push them to somewhere else to analyze them, including Log Analytics. Okay. A question here from Hassan, if he's still awake at 2:36 now, about using Azure Functions in a headless browser. So this is a question that comes up a lot. Like, I want to use Phantom, I think is one of the popular Chromium headless browser builds. It should technically be possible, definitely in the custom container option. So if you use an Azure Functions premium plan, you can give us your own Docker image and a Docker environment that will run your function in. That way should be pretty seamless. The one that I don't quite know how to get up and running, because I've never figured out all the hiccups that I've seen other people have to figure out with things like Lambda, is how to get that to work in a consumption plan. It mostly just comes down to the fact that headless browsers have a bunch of OS dependencies that they expect to be there that we don't carry in our Docker image by default. There are ways that you find those dependencies and you stick them in your app package and you deploy something. I couldn't tell you how to do it. So I think the easiest way that I'd recommend, assuming you don't want to go figure out all the crazy stuff I referenced, just create your own Docker image, your own environment, publish it to the Linux Premium plan. I know there's a cost implication there, but that's kind of like the best we have for now.
Great.
Okay, we hit that. One question on why does function use dry IOC for DI? I don't know if I assume that's what we use. I guess my short answer is it's kind of up to the devs. That's what they decide they liked. But with .NET Core, a lot of the dependency injection stuff is abstractions. So we're following the dependency injection abstraction. So even the fact that I wasn't really quite positive that that's what you're using, it's because it's abstracted away entirely. And when I use dependency injection in my functions to inject in my own services, I'm just using like a .NET Core extension dependency injection thing. I don't even use dry IOC. So I don't know if there's any good or bad reason.
I don't know, but if that our particular implementation choice is causing you some limitations, do let us know. Like we're in general, as you notice on this webcast, we're very driven by what customers are telling us they can and cannot do. So
yes, absolutely right. Like if you're bumping into it, let us know why and how we can help. We'll do two more, and Hassan is awake. Hassan, I hope you join all of our webcasts. Joel, I'll take this. I guess I'll answer this one. Joel says, Jeff, can you make quick mention of your you and Poly's implementation of distributed circuit breakers using durable functions?
Or
sure,
maybe we can comment on your
if you want.
Yeah.
No, now we're gonna look at my no. So there's been a scenario I've wanted to figure out for years, and I've done it in different ways, which is imagine that you have a system that's failing and it's causing your functions to fail. How do you get your functions to stop triggering? Like, you know, the SQL database is down, you want to turn off your functions. So I recently, just on yesterday, published a blog post around doing this with durable entities, where you have a stateful function that's monitoring the health of your function in the downstream system. If something goes wrong, it can turn it off. Poly, the .NET library, has actually built in first-class support to do this distributed circuit breaker pattern for any app. It's not just for functions. It's like anytime you have something that's going to be scaling out, you can use durable entities as a very efficient and inexpensive way to monitor the health of that. I definitely encourage you to check out both the blog post that I posted, and I linked to the Poly library as well. It's a pretty cool pattern. It's also generated a lot of really good discussion. Like on Twitter, there's been a lot of people who are like, hey, how much of this could you just build into the service? Like, could I say, hey, if I hit more than 30 exceptions in a minute, then scale down or slow down or shut down? It's nothing that we have committed to do right now, but the dialogue's been really good. And we watched that and we're like, yeah, like even this morning when I was driving into work, I was trying to think like, how could we just build this in? Like, this seems like a great idea. So appreciate the community engaging as well on how you would like to see this supported better. Last question. You got what's comment?
I missed one thing, which should be quick.
Yes.
Okay. So actually, Crystal's big Azure Functions fan. So he put together this challenge. See if people can read. I'll make it a little bigger. it's a little coding challenge that you can take on your own. But we thought of showing it here because it's reaching the end. He gave a full month for you to complete the challenge. If he's literal on the full month, means you have 2 more days. But there are prizes if you complete the challenge. You could get $25 of Xbox Gold, but the real one is the Surface headphones.
Sound canceling. I could use those.
They're cool. I don't think you're allowed to participate, Jeff.
No one comment on my code quality if I'm wearing sound canceling Surface headphones.
Anyway, so we're gonna share this link. Maybe Jeff already shared actually on his link aggregation thing. But if you wanna participate on it, it should be fun. Just have fun using Xamarin and functions. But hey, there's a little incentive in there. So.
It is there on the dev blogs announcement. So yes, enter. All you have to do is build an app, and once your app's built and works, then you're entered. So I've seen a few people tweeting out that they have entered as well. Okay, so 2 last questions. One is any plans to support Azure Data Lake triggers? So I can grab this one. In general, kind of moving forward wherever possible, especially when it's something like a service event. We want to integrate with Azure Event Grid as the way that we trigger functions. Azure Data Lake does now have a preview of Event Grid triggers for a few Data Lake v2 operations. That would be the recommended way that I would say to run with it, is to use that. So that in general too, like for other services, our hope is that they'll integrate with Event Grid and we'll integrate with Event Grid, and then you can connect the two together. And we also have, especially over the coming months, you'll probably hear us sharing more. We've got a few improvements coming down the pipeline to make that experience much more seamless. So that'd be the answer for that one. Then the last one, I'll let you grab this, Eduardo, is, any difference between triggering a web job and triggering an Azure function? Web jobs and functions differences.
So the functions are based on the web jobs SDK. So a lot of the triggers are gonna be.
It's true, yeah. They share the same triggers.
The same triggers. However, of course, when you're thinking web jobs, you're typically putting those as part of an app service plan. So it doesn't have the serverless scale nature of an Azure Functions, because you're going to be triggered and run within an app service plan that the web jobs is deployed to. The other noticeable difference is we also have. It's good to clarify. We also have triggers on the Kata front, which are not necessarily functions triggers. And that's very unique to Kata and the Kubernetes environment. And that is growing quickly. Like the amount of
someone
triggers.
Just supported NATS streaming, if you know what NATS is. That just got checked in yesterday, I think.
Yeah, so those are the main difference I can think of.
Yeah, the only, like the call out general web jobs and functions, like you can have functions that run a long time in a premium or app service plan. You can have web jobs that run a long time. I think one of the big ones is just the programming surface. So as Eduardo mentioned, functions is built on top of web jobs, which means that it's taken some opinionated ways to implement a function web job. With web jobs, you have full access to run whatever you want continuously, just as a background job. So you could do something in web jobs like open up a console app, right-click the console app and say publish this as a web job that just runs continuously. And it will run as a web job. You can't do that with a function, right? With a function, you need to associate a trigger. You need to set up the metadata. You need to do all that type of stuff. With web jobs, you have full access to main. You have full access to everything. So like functions has some benefits. It's taking care of some stuff for you. You also get the consumption costing models, as you mentioned. But web jobs does give you a little bit more knobs, but you also get some limitations because of that. So my rule of thumb, like most things with compute and deciding your best option, see if you can solve it on the most abstract, the most productive one, which I would say is the Azure Functions programming model. And if the answer is no, then you'd be like, okay, well, will web jobs do this for me? But I would tease towards functions.
Awesome
first.
Call out on the continuous web jobs, because that's one big difference.
Okay, that is it. We're at 45 minutes in. That's about how long these have been lasting. So thank you all very much for joining. Fantastic to see the good engagement on chat. As I mentioned, we'll be doing our next webcast from Ignite.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, so keep an eye on probably Twitter for that one, because even this YouTube channel, I don't think it's going to send you notifications. And I know this one was scheduled on a different day and a little bit late, but subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want notifications. Follow at Azure Functions for updates on when we're doing our webcast and the Ignite events.
Very, very cool.
Great. That's it, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We'll chat with you next month. Just a few weeks.